Welcome to the Vertical Sky Journal, the podcast that brings you everything you could ever want to know about Kilimanjaro. The climbing and the fitness, altitude and nutrition, the environment, the wildlife, and the people at the heart of the mountain. Today, the boldest start on the whole mountain, the route that begins high on the great Shira Plateau itself. The Shira Route. Okay, let's unpack this. Because imagine you train for months to climb the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, right?
Right. It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah, exactly. You fly across the globe, you obsessively pack your gear, and you're mentally prepared for this long, grueling hike through dense, humid rainforests to sort of earn your elevation, and then you do none of that.
No, you skip it entirely.
Right. Instead, you get into a vehicle, you drive right past the lush jungles, straight up the mountain's western flank, and you just step out of the car at close to 3,600 meters.
Which is incredibly high.
It is. You're instantly dropped into this freezing thin air environment, subjecting your body to an immediate biological shock. So today we are exploring Graham Noble's climbing guide, the Shira Route, a high wilderness Kilimanjaro ascent. We're trying to figure out why anyone would, voluntarily skip the warm-up and jump straight into the deep end.
Well, it's an incredibly provocative way to begin an expedition, isn't it? Because the Shira Route, it really just completely upends the traditional mountaineering rulebook. What's fascinating here is that we aren't just tracing a line on a map today.
No, it's much more than that.
Exactly. We're dissecting a profound physiological and psychological collision. I mean, what happens when the human body is denied its natural adaptation period? And, what kind of landscape makes that brutal trade-off worthwhile?
I want to start exactly there, actually, the landscape. Because we have to understand the allure before we can really understand the pain. Why skip those beautiful lower slopes? You've got the colobus monkeys, ancient trees, the waterfalls.
Yeah, the rainforest is teeming with life.
Right. But climbers on Shira deliberately bypass all of that. And looking at the source text, it really just comes down to one specific place. The Shira Plateau. It's described not just as a piece of flatland, but as the collapsed remains of Kilimanjaro's oldest volcanic cone.
Yeah, and that geological history is really what makes it so striking. Because, millions of years ago, Kilimanjaro was a very different mountain. It was dominated by 3 distinct volcanic peaks.
Wow.
And Shira was actually the first of those to expire and collapse in on itself. So it formed this massive caldera, which over millennia just filled up with debris and lava from the other eruptions.
So basically paved itself over.
Precisely. And today it's this vast, silent world of moorland spanning roughly 13 square kilometers. I mean, other popular routes might briefly intersect with it or maybe clip a corner, giving you a quick glimpse.
Just a sort of drive-by view.
Exactly. But the Shira Route gives you the entire sweeping expanse of it, right from west to east.
The imagery in the guide is just incredible. I sort of picture it like walking directly onto a stark science fiction movie set. You step out of the vehicle at Londerossi Gate, and the comfortable world just vanishes.
You're completely gone.
Yeah, there's no green canopy, no humid air. You're just immersed in this pristine, otherworldly environment. The guide mentions this sparse moorland with giant heathers and those weird giant lobelias that look a bit like mutated pineapples.
They really do. They're bizarre plants.
And the most striking thing is Kibo, right? The main peak. It's completely unobstructed. It just steadily grows larger ahead of you as you spend those early days crossing the plain.
And, the psychological impact of that isolation is huge. When you start at the bottom on the traditional trails, you're surrounded by this bustling microeconomy.
Oh, yeah. Porters, huge groups, lots of noise.
Right. Hundreds of people. The noise of civilization fades away very slowly. But because the Shira Route bypasses all of that, your early days are incredibly quiet. You are instantly severed from civilization.
It's totally cut off.
Yeah. And that profound silence, it forces a very different kind of mental engagement from your very first morning. You realize you're a guest in a deeply inhospitable wilderness.
But that isolation brings us to the catch, doesn't it? The environment is dramatic, but your body recognizes that drama immediately. There's a very literal physical price tag.
Oh, absolutely.
You're starting at nearly 3,600 meters. That's almost 12,000 feet. And you haven't walked a single step to earn it. You've been in a plane, then a hotel, then a car, and suddenly, bam, extreme altitude.
Yeah, and this is where we have to look at the biology. At 3,600 meters, the barometric pressure of the atmosphere drops significantly. Now, a common misconception is that there's less actual oxygen in the air.
Right. People always say the air is thinner, so there's less oxygen.
Exactly. But the percentage of oxygen is exactly the same as at sea level.
Mm-hmm.
It's roughly 21%. However, because the pressure is lower, the oxygen molecules are spread much further apart.
Oh, I see. So when you take a deep breath, your lungs are expanding to the same volume, but they're capturing fewer molecules.
Precisely. You're getting roughly 60 to 65% of the oxygen per breath compared to sea level.
Wow. That is a huge drop.
It is. And your body recognizes the deficit instantly. To compensate for the lack of oxygen reaching your brain, your heart rate spikes.
Yeah.
Your breathing becomes rapid and shallow. Your body is suddenly working overtime while you're just standing completely still in the car park.
That's wild.
That's the biological shock. Your systems are panicking because they haven't had time to produce the extra red blood cells you need to carry that scarce oxygen.
Okay, so wait. If the body is getting hit that hard and your heart is racing before you even start walking, why is this route even allowed? I mean, it sounds like you're just paying to get acute mountain sickness. Is this just a shortcut for impatient climbers?
It's a totally fair question. But if we look at the mountain's infrastructure, it's absolutely not a shortcut for the impatient. It's a highly specialized route, tailored for a specific demographic. The Shira Route is explicitly designed for the experienced high-altitude trekker.
Ah, so people who've done this before.
Exactly. Someone who already knows their physiological baseline. They know how their body reacts to sudden oxygen deprivation. They can spot the early warning signs of fluid buildup in the lungs or brain.
Right.
And they've made a calculated choice to manage that physical discomfort in exchange for the vast, quiet wilderness of the plateau.
That makes sense. But because it's such a stark challenge, it forces us to look at the alternative.
Yeah.
We really have to talk about the Lemosho route here.
Yes, definitely.
Because the climbing guide notes that Lemosho is near identical to Shira, right? Except for the very beginning. Instead of driving up to the plateau, Lemosho starts lower down in the dense forest.
Right, you physically walk your way up.
Yeah, you hike through the changing ecosystems until you eventually emerge onto the exact same plateau.
And that walk is simply the biological safety valve. As you slowly ascend over those first 2 days, your cardiovascular system is given the precious commodity of time.
Time to adjust.
Exactly. Your kidneys detect the lower oxygen levels, and they release a hormone called erythropoietin,
Erythropoietin, okay.
which stimulates your bone marrow to produce more red blood cells.
Yeah.
So by the time you reach the Shira Plateau on the Lemosho route, your body has already built the infrastructure to survive there.
Which is why the source emphatically recommends Lemosho first for anyone who is a novice at altitude.
Absolutely. It actively protects your summit chances.
You know, the best way I can visualize it is imagine a freezing cold mountain lake. Taking Lemosho is like wading in step by step.
Yeah, good analogy.
It's uncomfortable, but your body slowly adjusts, your breathing regulates. By the time you're waist deep, you're fine. But taking Shira is like being pushed out of a helicopter directly into the icy water.
Spot on. The environment is the same, but the panic response is completely different.
Right. You trade biological stability for immediate solitude.
You do. So the obvious question becomes, for the experienced climbers who choose that helicopter drop, how do they survive it? How do they stabilize and still make it to the roof of Africa?
Right. What's the strategy?
The secret is strictly manipulating time, specifically through an 8-day itinerary. Those 8 days provide the framework to overcome that massive initial oxygen deficit.
Okay, let's unpack how that actually plays out on the ground.
Yeah.
So day 1, you have the drive and a short walk to Shira 1 camp. Day 2 is a gentle trek across the plateau to Shira 2 camp.
Yes.
But it's day 3 that the guide highlights as the crucial biological buffer, right?
Yeah.
It's a dedicated acclimatization day spent entirely on the plateau.
Exactly. On day 3, climbers hike high up onto the rugged ridges surrounding the camp. They spend time exposed to the thinner air and then physically walk back down to Shira 2 camp to sleep at a lower elevation.
Ah, the classic rule.
Yes, climb high, sleep low. It's the fundamental golden rule of mountaineering. By forcing the body to work at a higher elevation during the day, you stress the system.
Which triggers those red blood cells you mentioned.
Precisely. But you don't stay up there. You descend to a slightly lower, more oxygen-rich elevation to properly recover and rest. Day 3 is basically the lifeline where the body finally catches up.
Which brings us to the grand transition of the route. Because once that baseline is secured, the journey shifts dramatically. From day 4, the Shira Route merges into the classic southern circuit.
And the landscape changes completely here.
It really does. The quiet solitude of the plateau is replaced by these massive, towering features. You climb up to the lava tower, which sits at a staggering 4,600 meters.
The terrain turns into this stark alpine desert, just volcanic rock and scree everywhere.
Yeah, and after hitting that high point, you descend into this spectacular valley to sleep at Barranco Camp. So again, you're executing that climb high, sleep low mechanism.
And Barranco Camp is visually stunning. It's nestled directly beneath these towering cliffs, which set the stage for the next morning's challenge, the Barranco Wall.
The source calls this the most fun hour on the mountain, which sounds crazy when you're looking at a near vertical rock face.
That sounds intimidating, yeah. But it's actually a thrilling change of pace. It's not a technical climb with ropes, it's a hands-on scramble. You literally have to collapse your trekking poles, stow them away, and use your hands to pull yourself up over the boulders.
I love that detail. You go from days of rhythmic walking to solving this full-body tactile puzzle. You have to be entirely present.
You really do.
And once you conquer the wall, you push across deep valleys to Karenga Camp, and then eventually you arrive at Barafu Camp.
Which is base camp for the summit.
Exactly. And this is where the reality sets in. The air is incredibly thin, it's totally desolate, devoid of vegetation, just loose volcanic scree.
The psychological atmosphere of Barafu is incredibly heavy. Climbers are exhausted. They force down an early dinner and retreat to their tents while the sun is still up, just desperately trying to sleep.
Knowing that the ultimate test is only hours away.
Yeah. Everything up to this point, the plateau, the acclimatization, the Barranco Wall, it was all just a delivery mechanism to get them to this freezing launching pad in the best possible condition.
And then comes summit night. The guide describes it as a monumental undertaking of sheer willpower. You're woken up around midnight, you step out into pitch black, freezing air. It can easily drop to minus 15 degrees Celsius.
It's brutally cold.
And from there, it's this relentless, punishing climb up loose scree. Every step forward, you slide half a step back.
And the lack of oxygen makes every movement feel impossibly heavy. Your brain is screaming at you to stop, to go back to thicker air.
You're just following the headlamp of the person in front of you.
Exactly. The only goal is to maintain a slow, robotic rhythm until you reach the crater rim at Stella Point, hopefully timing it, just as the sun rises over Africa.
That psychological relief of the sun hitting your face must be unbelievable, but Stella Point isn't even the end.
No, it's not.
You still have to summon whatever energy is left to traverse the snowy rim and finally reach Uhuru Peak, the true roof of Africa, at 5,895 meters.
And the brutal reality is that the summit is only the halfway point of the day.
Oh, right. You still have to get down.
The physiological toll of being at nearly 6,000 meters is so severe you can't stay long. You take some photos and then immediately begin this massive plunging descent all the way down past Barafu to Mweka Camp.
Just sinking gratefully back into thicker air. It's a punishing day on the knees, though.
It's a staggering drop in elevation.
It truly is a gauntlet. You know, understanding the Shira Route is really an exercise in understanding your own physical limits. If you ever plan a trek like this, you have to weigh the intoxicating allure of instant wilderness against the very punishing biological math of altitude.
You do. You're choosing the boldest start, fully aware of the toll it demands. And, you know, that trade-off brings me to a final thought about the landscape itself. Think about the fact that the Shira Plateau is the collapsed remains of the oldest volcanic cone. When you step out of that vehicle on day one, you are quite literally walking across the ancient ruined summit of the mountain's past.
Wow, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah, you're trekking across a destroyed peak in order to reach the current highest point. It's a fascinating irony. The Earth's violent history paved this perfectly silent, flat path that climbers now seek out for peace. The destruction of the old mountain created the gateway to the new one.
That is a phenomenal perspective to end on. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe so you never miss the latest from the Vertical Sky Journal. You will find a full written version of this deep dive over on our journal at vertical-sky.com. And we would love you to come and say hello on Instagram, where we are at VERTICALSKYTZW. Until next time, pole, and keep dreaming of the mountain.